You don't believe in God, though, do you?
Well, I believe this universe came from something.
The richest man on the planet is sitting in a podcast chair, and the host asks him a simple question. Who do you look up to the most? No hesitation. 2 words. The Creator. This is Elon Musk, a man who 3 years earlier publicly shrugged that he was fine with going to hell. And now he's looking into a camera saying the one he looks up to most is God. But here's the thing you need to understand. Elon isn't some strange exception. He's not even the most shocking name on this list. Because something is happening right now that the smartest people in the world spent the last 20 years swearing was impossible. For a generation, we were told the tide only flows one way. That as people get smarter, richer, more scientific, they leave God behind. The professors, the scientists, the celebrities, they were supposed to be done with all of it. And instead, one by one, some of the most famous atheists on Earth have been turning around and walking back. I've got 8 of them. 8 people who stood in the atheist camp. Some of them built their whole careers there and changed their minds. And I'm going to count them down from surprising to absolutely stunning, ending with the one man whose answer stopped the internet cold. Let's get into it. Number 8. Lee Strobel, the detective. We start with a man who set out to destroy Christianity. Lee Strobel was an award-winning legal journalist at the Chicago Tribune, a hard-nosed, evidence-only skeptic. When his wife became a Christian, he was furious. So he did what a journalist does. He launched an investigation to prove the whole thing was a fraud, treating the resurrection like a crime scene. It took him nearly 2 years, and the evidence broke him. He sat down with the case laid out in front of him and realized he'd lost. In his own words, he concluded it would take more faith to stay an atheist than to become a Christian.
Jesus himself said, blessed are those when you are persecuted, when people say all kinds of false things about you because of me, because great will your reward be in heaven.
That's the detective who went looking for a body and found a risen Savior instead. And he's just the warm-up. Number 7. Francis Collins, the scientist. If you wanted to design the perfect atheist, he'd look like Francis Collins. This is the man who ran the Human Genome Project, who led the team that mapped the entire human genetic code. He later directed the National Institutes of Health. By his own description, in medical school, he was an obnoxious atheist. Then 2 things happened. He watched dying patients cling to a peace he couldn't explain. And he started reading C.S. Lewis. It cracked something open. And the moment it finally broke was on a mountain hike, when he came around a bend and saw a frozen waterfall split into 3 streams. 3 in 1. He dropped to his knees in the grass and gave his life to Christ. One of the most credentialed scientists in American history, on his knees in the dirt. Keep going, because it only gets stranger. Number 6. Kat Von D, the occultist. Now a hard turn. For years, Kat Von D was famous for 2 things: her tattoos and the occult. The celebrity tattoo artist openly practiced witchcraft, spell work, tarot, nature worship. It was her whole public identity. And then in 2023, she walked away from all of it. She was baptized. She threw out the occult books, the tarot cards, the whole shelf of it. She said those practices had just been crutches, and that Jesus was the answer she'd been reaching for the entire time.
So I mean, I'm on fire for Jesus.
From casting spells to on fire for Jesus, she sold her house, left Los Angeles, and moved to a small town to start over. And we're only halfway. Quick pause. If you're this far in, I want to hear from you. Drop the name of the person on this list who surprised you the most so far. Just the name in the comments. I read them. And if you love what this channel is about, telling the real stories of faith that nobody else covers, do me a favor and hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps these stories reach the people who need them. Okay, because the next 4 are where this goes from surprising to unbelievable. Number 5, Peter Hitchens, the brother. You know the name Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens was arguably the most famous atheist of the 21st century, a man who debated pastors for sport and died without budging an inch. But Christopher had a brother, Peter. And Peter was a militant atheist too. As a young man, he literally set fire to a Bible to prove he was free of it. Then, on a trip through France, he wandered into a gallery and stood in front of a 500-year-old painting of the Last Judgment, the damned being dragged into hell, and it stopped him cold. For the first time in his life, he thought about standing before God himself and realized he had no answer. That painting started his walk back to faith.
It is the existence of God is unknowable. Therefore, it cannot be, you can't attain an opinion on it through research or through knowledge. So there is only one way in which you can reach an opinion on it, and that is through choice.
The most famous atheist on earth died an atheist. His own brother came home. Same last name, opposite endings. Number 4, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, the professional. This one shook the intellectual world. Ayaan Hirsi Ali wasn't just an atheist. She was a professional atheist. A celebrated public intellectual who stood shoulder to shoulder with Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens in the new Atheist Movement. Critiquing religion was her career, her platform, her entire public identity. And in November 2023, she announced she had become a Christian. She described years wandering through fear and doubt, and wrote that a life with no spiritual solace had finally become unendurable, like amputating part of her own soul. The woman who built a career tearing down faith, publicly kneeling inside it.
And I choose to believe the story that there is a higher power.
When one of the 4 faces of modern atheism switches sides, the whole movement feels it. And she did. 3 to go. Number 3, Jordan Peterson, the man on the edge. Now, I have to be careful and honest with you on this one, because he's the most complicated name here. Jordan Peterson, the psychologist whose lectures on the Bible have been watched hundreds of millions of times, has spent years refusing to answer one simple question. Are you a Christian? Watch what happens when they ask him straight.
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
He won't say the words. When pushed, he basically says, "You're the one calling me that. I haven't claimed it." And yet, this is a man who went from declaring himself an atheist to saying the most he'd commit to was this.
I act as if God exists.
And then, in January of 2025, he went further than he ever had and stated plainly that Jesus is God. So no, I'm not going to stand here and tell you Jordan Peterson is a full convert. He'd be the first to correct me. But watch the direction he's walking. This is a man standing right at the edge of belief, one honest step from the water, and the whole world is watching him decide. Number 2, Hulk Hogan, the legend. You know this man. The bandana, the 24-inch pythons, the biggest name in the history of wrestling. Hulk Hogan gave his life to Christ as a teenager, and then, by his own admission, spent decades derailed, chasing every kind of excess fame could buy. But in December of 2023, at 70 years old, Hulk Hogan walked into the water and was baptized again. He posted the video, and it was seen millions of times. He called it total surrender to Jesus and said it was the greatest day of his life. And here's what gives it weight. In July of 2025, Hulk Hogan passed away. That baptism, that public declaration of faith, was one of the last things he ever gave the world. He went out having already gone home.
That God presence in us, that still small voice. So what Terry brings to the table is a meat suit, a meat suit filled with the Spirit of Christ, and it's a testing ground for me.
Which brings us, finally, to number one, the one you came here for. Number one, Elon Musk, the payoff. I need to set this up right, because the destination doesn't hit unless you understand the road. Back in 2021, a Christian satire site jokingly asked Elon Musk to accept Jesus. His answer was a shrug. Sure, I'll be saved. Why not? In 2022, he tweeted he was fine going to hell. That was the starting line. A rich, brilliant, self-described atheist waving the whole thing off. Then the drift began. By 2024, he was calling himself a cultural Christian, saying he was raised Anglican, baptized. Step by step, the tone got more serious. And then came December 2025, that podcast chair, and the exchange that stopped the internet.
Who do you look up to the most?
The Creator.
What's your current position on God?
God is the Creator.
You don't believe in God, though, do you?
Well, I believe this universe came from something.
Asked point blank about his position on God, the richest man alive didn't dodge. He said God is the creator. Pressed on whether he really believed, he said the universe came from something. From I'm okay going to hell to God is the creator in 3 years. Now, I want to be careful here, the way this channel always is. I am not going to tell you Elon Musk is a born-again Christian. He hasn't said that. He still calls himself cultural, not converted, and I don't know his heart. That's God's territory, not mine. But you cannot deny the direction. The trajectory is real. And when the most powerful man on the planet starts publicly crediting the Creator, that is not nothing. That's the ground shifting under a story the world thought was already over. So look at what we just watched. A journalist who tried to disprove it, a scientist who mapped human DNA, an occultist, the brother of the world's most famous atheist, a professional new atheist, a psychologist on the edge, a wrestling legend who went home, and the richest man alive, saying the Creator is the one he looks up to most. For 20 years, we were promised that the smart money was leaving God, that faith was for people who didn't know better. And here are 8 of the most intelligent, accomplished, skeptical people of our time, quietly, publicly, one by one, turning back around. Maybe the tide was never going the direction they told you. Maybe the God they said was dead has just been patiently waiting at the edge of the water. For the scientist, for the skeptic, for the celebrity, and maybe for you, too. If this encouraged you, share it with one person who needs to see it. And I'll see you in the next one.